After a long and grueling Academy season, the Academy playoffs are finally upon us here on the Alpha Stream. My name is McCormiel. With me is Cash, as always. St. Edward's Academy, KSU COD Academy going up against one another. Two of the top four teams left in remaining here inside of the Academy playoffs, Cash.
Yeah, and winner of this is guaranteed grand finals and guaranteed second. So a lot on the line here. Again, it's playoff time. We've been talking about it the last several weeks, whether it be Academy or Main. So much on the line for these squads. And I mean, looking at the two teams we have to kick things off, St. Edward's and KSU Academy, I mean, this is going to be a treat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can just kick off things just looking at the head-to-head for these two teams specifically. For St. Edward's, on one side of the coin, you have a team who has kind of figured it out towards the recent portion of the year. They've been relatively consistent throughout the entire season, but really what I guess many would consider to be the best team or the favorite team coming into the playoffs. KSU only dropping 2 maps throughout the entire regular season and only 1 map in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely just that beacon of light on them as far as like, hey, who's the glaringly obvious best team here? Definitely KSU, but if there's a team that can give them a run and bump them down to losers, it is the St. Edward squad. But I mean, looking across the board, of course, for KSU, their rivals in Georgia Southern kind of ruined their perfect season. Their 2 regular season map losses did come at the hands of Georgia Southern, who did not make playoffs. So always leave it up to a rivalry to spoil that perfect season. And on the side of St. Edwards, I mean, 15-2 in hardpoint, 10-2 in Search and Destroy, 8-1 in Control. Again, these are all just wonderful records you want to be boasting at this point in the season. It's just going to be a matter of who comes out and plays well again tonight because, well, both teams have only dropped 1 map here thus far in playoffs.
Yeah, and you know, maybe for the people that might be just joining us for the first time for looking at the Academy teams, maybe you've loosely followed the CCL season just as the base on the actual main roster of teams, but here in Academy, you know, there's no shortage of extremely talented players and rosters that were playing their entire year here inside of the Academy portion of things, trying to best their season, but also put their school on the map for next year and set up a lot of these players and younger players for potential roster spots on main next year, especially if we have a couple of different players leaving off of the main roster, maybe even transferring school. So if you are new to the Academy, welcome. It's been a fun and crazy chaotic season thus far, but that's why we're being able to showcase and broadcast to you the playoffs here this late inside of the season. So looking at the roster for the side of St. Edwards, you'll recognize a few faces here on this team, I'm sure. First and foremost, you've got Crook and Relk coming in as a tag team duo. You'll remember them from last year, Fiasco and Combat as well. Again, these are names that you should know if you are a fan of the CCL year over year. I expect great things out of this roster. However, Cash, the biggest problem that they're going to be facing inside of this playoff run is, of course, the team that they're facing now in KSU.
Yeah, this will most definitely, and without question, be their toughest challenge yet. But like you said, Relk and Kruk, the tag team duo there, is definitely one that has to shine bright tonight if they want to look to take the series against the very much favored squad in KSU Academy.
Well, speaking of the favored squad, we'll go ahead and take a look at the roster that has given KSU such a boost this season inside of the Academy portion of the CCL season. Rose, Beloved, Gizmo, and Outlaw, the 4 players that will be taking on St. Edward's University here tonight. They faced a lot of adversity throughout the season, mainly as you highlighted beforehand in GSU Academy, but here instead of the playoffs, only dropping 1 map thus far. Sure, this is going to be their biggest and most feared challenge thus far inside of the playoffs, but I think they have the guts to get it done.
They definitely do. This is a squad that is very well poised and composed as far as Academy teams go, and like you said, just looking to get themselves on the map and get their name out there, not only for the university but for their Academy squad as well, and make a name for themselves to get a main playoff or a main roster spot in the years to come. But I mean, yeah, Georgia Southern, like I said earlier, they take the 2 maps off of them that they have in the regular season loss, and both teams within the playoffs here have dropped a Search and Destroy, and I think that's going to be something really interesting as we kind of move along in the show. To highlight is both teams have dropped a Search and Destroy, albeit it was a map 2. Neither team have been pushed to a map 5, but you hear S&D wins championships, so depending on how this series shakes out, I'm really interested to see how that comes into effect. But all in all, this KSU COD Academy roster, super strong one, and again, both teams are going against their toughest opponent thus far tonight.
Yeah, and that just goes hand in hand with it being the winners finals and of course getting and securing themselves top 4 inside the season of the CCL is going to be not only a boon of success for the season that they can put on their backs, but of course that also comes with the prizing inside of the CCL this season for the Academy. Just like the CCL main, these teams inside of the Academy portion of the CCL will be fighting for a cash prize. First place will be walking away with $2,500, second place with $1,250, third place $750, and and 4th place is for $500. So in all fairness and in all seriousness, this match to get into Grand Finals will secure you top 2. So this is essentially a $1,250 match of Call of Duty right here, because at the very end of the day, that's going to be at least what you're guaranteed walking out of this if you are able to win inside of the specified series. Speaking of the series as a whole, we'll take a look at our map set here for these two teams. Starting off, we'll go to a Tuscan for Hardpoint, a Search and Destroy on Berlin, and a Control on Berlin to round out the first 3 games. Hardpoint and Search and Destroy and 4 and 5 need go the distance will be a double dosage of Bakaj. Cash, I love the lineup here. The one thing I'm interested in, though, is how well will the side of St. Edwards be able to get out to starting-wise on a map like Tuscan to start things off, specifically with some of their heavy AR presence.
It's definitely one that I've talked about it all season long, at least my take on Tuscan. It's such a good gauge for that, even ARs as well. Tuscan Hardpoint is one of the maps that you can kick things off on and get the best gauge of how your whole team is playing through rotations, through slaying, because you get those close quarter combat situations. You also get those long lines of sight and ARs having to rotate in anchors. So again, I think this is just obviously the best map in Vanguard, but also one that can really gauge to kick off a series how well your team's kind of gelling and going to get things started for the night. So like you had said, for St. Edwards, it's going to be one where this could kind of tell the series, at least give us a really good opening look at it. Can they come out hot against this KSU squad, or are they going to fall a little flat? We'll have to find out. But between both of these squads, man, I mean, we're in for a wonderful series.
Absolutely. Well, starting things off here over towards P1. Nades over the top. Going to slow up St. Edwards, but they have gotten themselves into P1 first and foremost. Kennesaw State going to be in the middle of the map, but the first blood going to go to SEU Academy. Kruk there for the second kill in a row is going to allow them to pick up 2 quick off the beginning. 20 seconds off of this hill, you're to see a flank starting to come in here and a pinch play making its way through. But, the Hilltoppers, they're all the wiser. They're going to read it all the way through the back. Go ahead and maintain this hill time.
Great awareness from them. They didn't opt to take a super heavy mid route. They just had a couple players watch you, and we saw Fiasco watching the flank there. So they sniff out the first play from KSU wonderfully and have also won the first 35 seconds of this hill time and are poised to get the rest of it here. So about as good as an opening break as you can get. The only thing that would top it off is to win the rotation. And even if you don't get that, well, you're already up at least 50 or so points off the rip. And now the pressure's on KSU to respond to the big hold here off P2.
Yeah, I think it comes off a lack of aggression there over towards P1 for Kennesaw State. They play the middle of the map. Sure, it can work out well. The problem is, if you're pushing through the middle of the map, you have to win the gunfights there, and the same thing goes for the rotation here over towards P2, as the Owls got out on an early rotation, but St. Edwards Academy, they were just able to win the initial gunfights to the front, brute force their way into the hill, and now they've gotten themselves this initial time here. So as Kennesaw State now try to force their way in, force their hand back into this engagement. Combat's going to go for number 3 in a row. 5-2 start there from Fiasco. The Hilltoppers are flying with high colors here in map number 1. It has not been close through 2.
And combat has all but 10 seconds of hill time for the St. Edward squad. So just starting off electric, and again, just such a victory for them in P2. Of course, having not had the rotation, you just hope to make it, contest heavy and at least keep KSU off the time. They do better than that by, like you had said, bullying it out from the front. It continued to extend their lead. This last 10 seconds of scrap time going to go their way, but player 8 in Gizmo going to be coming in the back, and with the ability to shoot a couple players in the back, that could play spoiler on their opening break. As player 5 in Outlaw does handle thing on roof side, and Gizmo does find a kill there. So now, kind of a 2-front war coming in for St. Edwards. They've got to clear the player out and Gizmo behind them before they can make a move forward.
Oh, that's so unfortunate there for Relk as well, because he jumps around the corner, doesn't read the deep cut that's there. So as Gizmo's able to pick up 2 through the middle of the map, it secures spawns for the side of KSU, and now St. Edwards can start to make this push through the front. Right now, it's a great hold, though, for Kennesaw State. They got out early this time, and they're rewarded with the hill time instead of getting broken instantaneously. However, Kruk is still going to be here. Nobody getting hill time at the moment. Gizmo down the staircase. It's 2 players inside of fire, but another flank might just spell spoiler here yet again for Kennesaw State all the way in through and behind. Outlaw on top fire. Everybody over by P2. 20 seconds left. You can start thinking about the rotation here, but for the Owls, that's a phenomenal hold there on P3 to get yourself some good time and find your way back into this game.
It was a great hold, and the only saving grace there for St. Edwards was that you were able to cut Gizmo off streaks, who was on 6, and that could have spelled disaster for allowing them to get back into this game a bit easier. So you stop the bleeding, you're still up 50 points, and have the P4 rotation. You just have to win a couple more gunfights, but like you had said, for the Owls, a wonderful hold for them to get themselves right back in this still. Now down 60 once again, they still have to continue to battle back, and St. Edwards, they don't look to be slowing down at all as the battle ensues here on P4.
45 seconds left. Backside spawns for Kennesaw State Academy. You look to the middle of the map. Beloved up top, going to get cut down by combat. Everybody now trying to force their way through the field. It's a beautiful brute force push now from the side of St. Edwards that allows Combat to get 3. The backside spawns come along with it, and now you can start to force your will out over towards the ramp. Snap around the left side corner, won't be able to win it. 3 gunfights go in the way of Kennesaw State. Now it's Relk by his lonesome inside of the hill, so as quickly as St. Edwards were able to break in, Kennesaw State do their opposite justice and find themselves in P4 for the scrap time. Now it's all going to be coming down to who wants to win the rotation out early, and it looks like it's going to be the side of Kennesaw State who's going to be there first. Off-screen engagement will go in the way of Relk, though, so first gunfight will be there. Now it's just going to be about clearing out this P5 and setting up to hold down a Money Hill.
Look at this route by Brock, who you're shooting players in the back. There goes one, and there goes the second. That's going to be the clearance on the hill for St. Edwards Academy. You said they opted to give up the rotation. They did just that. All behind Crook, making a route that paid off dividends for them and is now earning them hill time. They are making sense of the map in such a way that none of the routes are being wasted. They're not just running around the map. It seems like everyone spawns in and knows the lanes they need to go to. That's just a testament to clean communication and also teamwork and trust. That's why the St. Edwards Academy also has a 100-point lead at this point, but a very solid opening from them here as they are just looking to extend their lead. KSU COD, they get the break back in, but once again, they've got a lot of work ahead of them.
25 seconds until our next set of rotations start for us here on Tuscan. Gizmo around the corner, won't be able to win the one-on-one gunfight. Outlaw still trying to play back and towards the hill, almost snaps onto the second in Fiasco, but Kennesaw State have all but given up P5 here at this point to try and opt for the rotation. However, you have to look to Combat, who's been on fire and blazing here inside of the map 1 thus far, who's pushed all the way up into your spawn, just saying hello, wreaking havoc, and now we'll look for Rose on the second challenge. But, I mean, Cash, just talking about this specifically here, even inside of the main portion of the CCL season, we talked about, oh yeah, on paper, this team looks phenomenal, this storyline is what we expect here, and then we throw everything out the window when we actually get into the games. It seems like it's another situation here instead of Academy 2.
It absolutely is, but I mean, you look at, KSU COD, coming out slow. Looking at who they're against, I'm not shocked that it is St. Edwards Academy on the other side of this, up 120 points. I mean, you look at St. Edwards as a whole as a university, they're the only school with 2 teams poised to take the championship for main and academy. So, I mean, this school just breeds them different. This is a very successful college. They have 2 very successful teams, and it's on display here early on. St. Edwards Academy now crossing the 200-point mark with the ability to 100-point club KSU here off the rip and just come out and blow the brakes off of this hard point.
I mean, there's very stark differences between SEU Academy and KSU COD here in map number 1, that being in the slaying department. 19 and 11 there for Combat, 16 and 13 for Kruk. Tons of time going and divvied up between the different players on the Hilltoppers, but for Kennesaw State, 5 and 11. That's not a performance that you can have a winning map with, let alone getting past the 100-point threshold. 9 and 18, double negative there as well. Not a statistical score line that is going to net you a W inside of a map. These are things that can turn around very easily in a second map and get you going inside of a series, but with a 226-90 lead now for St. Edwards Academy, it's been a very, very, very good map number 1 and a great start to this best-of-5 series. It's not over yet. Kennesaw State still has time to start clawing away at this lead bit by bit, but it needed to be about 3 hills ago when we truly started to see a hold, and we just didn't get to see that by P4 in the church.
The win condition, like you were saying, is just set for St. Edwards. You'd have to chip away at a little bit of time here and there. 5 seconds to scrap here. Now, the last 15, that's going to put them within 10 points of closing the series out. Essentially, you need 1 break, and this game is going to be over for map number 1. And, I mean, what let them get this far and have this much of a lead was just their map pressure. Throughout the entire map, they had so much of the map covered and cut down. I mean, look at how far advanced they are beyond the 50-yard line. Now I know P2 is tucked, or P3 is tucked into the far left side of the map, but they just don't give KSU COD an opening to slip through the cracks and try to hit a flank or something just to cut off their attack. And now trying to get through from the front. Again, the St. Edwards squad, they have so much map pressure and presence that now they have KSU players even spawning out.
7 seconds needed for the Hilltoppers to take map number 1. Kennesaw State try their might. They're still fighting on for these gunfights. And in for P3 backside Fountain. Gizmo looking to the back, Crook trying to make a route through. Good read there. You look back over towards fire. Gunfight going to be 1 in your way. So you've gone ahead, got some consolation time here on point number 3. However, if you're St. Edwards, you're completely fine with battering and attempting to hit this hill time after time again, because even on P4, you can break that with relative ease. Crook in from behind. This could be it for the scrap time. 5 seconds remaining. 2 players now coming off spawn. You look to fire. You're going to be able to win 1. Crook is there, but with 2 seconds left and nobody on rotation here from Kennesaw State Academy, it's going to be St. Edwards who claim a 250-137 win in map number 1. The Tuscan goes their way in the best-of-5 series here in the winners finals is going to put them with a 1-0 advantage in this series.
And I think that scoreline got a bit closer than even what that game really displayed from St. Edwards. But for
Yeah.
KSU, they were able to get a couple more hills there. And, St. Edwards, they end up closing it out in the end. And like you had said, I mean, just having a look at the slang, you can start there and say, how dominant this was for St. Edwards. And for KSU, just some slow starts that they couldn't battle back from. Sure, you get over 130 points on the board. But again, it's just that too little too late. Once a team hits that 200-point mark, it just feels like the win condition is set. And it's just too much to claw back from no matter what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the entire game, it just felt like Kennesaw State was playing catch-up because they were. It just started at point number one. It came with that aggression not being shown from Kennesaw State. They wanted to control the middle of the map. St. Edwards wanted to go for the hill time immediately on rotation over towards P2. Kennesaw State said, all right, 20 seconds left. We can give this up. It was just a shaky point number one. It just turned into a shaky hard point overall for them. So there's definitely takeaways that you can have there from the Owls. I think first and foremost, it's countering St. Edwards' aggression around the map. You started to do that. You mitigated that over towards P3 when you were really able to set up and define yourselves about 25% of the map that you knew that was going to be in your control and in your favor. But other than that, there weren't really moments where they could anchor themselves in and really find any sort of true potential on the map. And I think that's kind of what broke them down overall through map number one there. We'll take a look at the statistics here for both teams. But again, you can just draw your attention directly to the statistics in terms of slaying. The numbers were not close across the board. It's just lackluster games from the side of a couple players on Kennesaw State that put them out of commission early on inside of that game and really didn't give them a chance to contend towards the end of that hard one.
Absolutely. And I mean, even out of Rose, 20 engagements is just also such a low outputting game, where versus Outlaw having nearly 40. So like you'd said, just some performances from KSU where a little bit slower getting around the map and finding those engagements. But for St. Edwards, as you were mentioning, it's just something where they took advantage of the map space KSU was giving them, and where they were zoning out around and focusing on map control and then the zone, even if that costed them a rotation, it was working out for them. Whereas KSU, how many times do we say they won the rotation? They had no other map control besides that hill, so when they got broken, all was lost, and they couldn't seem to get back in because St. Edwards did such a good job zoning in and around each hard point. So St. Edwards, very dominant. We go to Berlin for map number 2, and kind of changes the pace a little bit, but I don't expect the aggression to change out of the St. Edward squad.
I don't either, and I think that for Kennesaw State, on a larger map like Berlin, this can tailor towards a team that wants to slow an aggressive team down, but it's going to have to come at the behest of finding your ARs, getting valuable, not only information, but those big first picks inside of those rounds, specifically on the defensive side. If you want to play a more of a tailored, passive, aggressive push on an offensive side, sure, that's fine, but for St. Edwards, it comes off the backhand of Combat having a phenomenal map, number one, Kruk being right there with him. For Kennesaw State, it's not to take anything away from what Gizmo and his teammate did inside of that map, number one, but overall, it just needs to be a step up from everybody on the roster. Look, you got the jitters out, you got whatever you needed out of map number one, sure, that's fine and dandy, but you're going to an S&D where you can finally control the pace of the game for yourselves. That's exactly what you need to do from start to finish here if you are Kennesaw State, or you're going to risk going down 2-0 to the Hilltoppers early on in the series.
And when you go down 2-0 to a team like this, that's something that can very quickly turn into a 3-0. You don't want to have a reverse sweep to pull this off. Sure, your playoff lives aren't over if you lose this match, but you would like to go and punch your ticket into grand finals. So for Kennesaw State, as we're saying, need to answer back here with a big search and destroy, and if they opt to slow the pacing, they definitely need to make sure all of their lanes are covered. This caters so heavily to your ARs and holding pre-aims until you can get that first pick, letting your SMGs kind of roam and find openings. St. Edwards is going to be there to take advantage of those openings. How much do you give them, or are you willing to combat that with a little bit of aggression yourself and just kind of take those 1v1s? As we open up the search and destroy, it's already Combat over at this B site, getting this bomb down.
And then Kruk getting that first blood is just so big. You lay down, it's one of those spots that you don't necessarily check immediately, but as Gizmo gets the trade there, it is going to be the bomb that does go down. 45 seconds left, now 35. Outlaw trying to get in towards the site. At least one's on the site. You haven't seen that player cross back over towards the back portion of the map. But with Relk winning the gunfight there, and now Outlaw being able to trade that out, it's all of a sudden a 1 versus 2 here from Fiasco. As it gets cut down through the middle of the map, it's Kennesaw State, who stay defiant here early on the defensive side of things, when the majority of their gunfights, and they're going to go ahead and put themselves up 1-0 here. That's exactly what we wanted to see right there, Cash.
And that was behind Gizmo, who opened up with the trade against Relk after the first blood, and then won the battle in the mid-map, and that's just so critical for this Kennesaw State team. They tried to get mid-map control in the hard point. This on Berlin S&D makes transitions, not only on offense or defense, that much harder. If you have someone who can lock down that area of the map, it's going to be so much harder to pump in reinforcements for an offensive team. They're able to get all the kills, and then, like you had said, get that B defused. So this is what we wanted to see from them. How do they look to replicate that success or switch things up here on their offensive approach and maybe try to go up 2 rounds early? But first blood's always going to help. They were down the man advantage early on last go around, and Beloved gets over to this B site, but little does he know a couple other players are here lurking. Does he have the teammate coverage?
Off-screen engagement. Kruk finds the first blood here in the round. Rose making noise inside of P2. Waiting for somebody from St. Edwards to potentially push on in. Bomb will go down. Information now to the Hilltoppers. Relk just going to play this passively, waiting for a cross back. They know that one player's inside of this bomb site because you have a couple players now waiting over on the dock side for a player to push all the way back towards the right. Relk doesn't want to jump in just yet, but it is going to be a player around the corner and Beloved who equalizes things out of the 3 versus 3. Now all of a sudden, this is much more doable for the Hilltoppers, so you start to work your way up the map. Kruk the second kill, 3 versus 2. You look back across the map. It's Rose all the way in the back lines. You got to win these one-on-one gunfights, and a sniper just might be what the doctor ordered. Rose gonna peek up, pops the head around the corner. Nade gonna be there. Okay, he missed the shot, and that just feels like the round ends there.
Yeah, you have to stick this defuse and get it here. Gizmo coming around the back, just gonna close this player off the bomb, and that's gonna be no time left. St. Edwards, they respond on defense in a big way, and a couple kills just not going the way of KSU there. And that post-plant setup, whenever you can get into it, is so hard to break on this B site. St. Edwards, they play it very well, respond back with a KSU. Oh, excuse me. I was backwards for a second. Sorry. KSU get that round. He gets the kill there. My bad. I was absolutely spun around on that one. KSU go up 2-0 there. Great job from them finding themselves up 2 rounds here early after taking the hardpoint loss that they did. I love seeing teams come out in map number 2 and find a good way to respond. Obviously behind the hand of Gizmo, who's sitting at 5-1 currently.
Good news is for St. Edwards, Kruk stays alive inside of that round, is now on 4 in a row. 3 more kills, you'll have a glide bomb to work with. Some utility in the back pocket for later on, but of course that's if we get there, not a guaranteed win. Looking for the first blood here yet again. Combat's going to try and get over towards this site, but it's great adjustments from Kennesaw State that are going to allow you to get that first blood before you cross all the way through. Kruk wins the one-on-one yet again, though, so that's actually a pretty large kill in the grand scheme of things, because now you only have one person over towards that B site. And if you're able to have Relk stay alive here, maybe take another pick off the board, that's all of a sudden a 2 versus 2 and a very different looking round. However, they should know that the bomb is down because of that kill on the combat.
You'd love to see Relk stay alive and find a pick, but unfortunately he just has no information. Sure, he has a couple lines of sight he can look down, but they have no map pressure here. The bomb is down over on the B site. They know Kruk is here. He's essentially pinned down at this point, just trying to see if anyone will walk into his line of sight. But if you're Kennesaw State, it paid off because you stacked heavy on this B site and found the 2 opening picks. Now Kruk, more than pinned, it's really going to be heroics from Relk.
How
and it's
are
got to
they
be
not
quickly.
finding him?
Got to be quick if he's going to make a route, and Kruk somehow still is able to find a pick.
Only gets to number 6. No streak earned here for the Hilltoppers. But now Relk can play this long angle. Beautiful shots there onto Gizmo. 1 versus 1. Rose inside the bottom of P2. Is Relk going to be able to check it? Gets directly past him. Are they going to play Ring Around the Rosie on the staircase? The answer is no. But Relk needs to run around, try to find this bomb, try to find the next player. And as Rose is just playing this angle so perfectly, he's not going to be able to get caught out by Relk. And that is just a round of timings there for the Hilltoppers that don't go your way. Kennesaw State, they play the timings well. They play the time perfectly there towards the end. And in a 1 versus 1 situation, they're able to go ahead and climb out victorious with a 3-0 lead here in the S&D. It's been all the Owls this far, Cash. I don't see that slowing down anytime soon, specifically if Fiasco and Combat don't get themselves on the board anytime soon.
That, and you still have Rose on Donut Watch for KSU. It really feels like it's Kruk versus Gizmo and how these opening bloods are shaking out. KSU doing a great job, even going man down in the first round, as we saw, finding a way to respond back behind Gizmo's big play in and around the mid-map. Opting for a slower offensive round here, maybe to see if St. Edwards gets a little over-aggressive. Relk already up in this B site, but both teams going to a near standstill. A 2-2 split on the defensive side for St. Edwards, but this bomb favoring the B site. No one trying to give anything up. St. Edwards much needing this round here to get one on the board. And for KSU, you know someone's going to get antsy and over-aggressive. You're just trying to feel it out.
I don't hate this play from Kennesaw State. Playing a bit more passive. Trying to catch somebody from St. Edwards off guard. Waiting, feeling out the map. Seeing where you might be able to go. Now the call's in, rotation over towards B, or rather, excuse me, A. And this combat's going to be sitting here inside of the building in P1. Gizmo will get cut down. They're going to both sprint into the door. Oh, that's just unfortunate timing from Combat. But more importantly, a beautiful second blood there for the side of Kennesaw State that gives them a 3 versus 2 advantage. Flank now coming through from the Hilltoppers. 45 seconds for a retake.
Rose, you've got to try to get eyes on these people crossing. Outlaw turns and is able to get one. Roke left on the outer lane. Going to be able to find one, but you got 2 more to go and 30 seconds to get the bomb defused. For Kennesaw State, it's been all about timings and playing around that thus far in the Search and Destroy. I expect nothing different from them. Relk running out of time quickly and no eyes on anyone. This should be another KSU round on the board.
No broken. Beloved left side going to challenge the staircase at the perfect time. And will do so to get themselves their 4th consecutive round here. So what was a thrashing in map number 1 on the side of St. Edwards and a respawn has quickly turned around for the side of Kennesaw State Academy, as they have now found themselves their 4th round here in the S&D to the nil that the Hilltoppers have gone ahead and gotten themselves here. So I mean, overall, it's just been the battle of trades, and they've gone the way of Kennesaw State. Those first bloods have been oh so crucial, and they just haven't showed any stops or rather sights of slowing down. Sure, you have Rose at 0-2, but I mean, with an 0-4 and a 1-4 statistical line across on the other side of the pond, in Kennesaw State just playing their timings correctly, this is no shock that they have such an advantage right now.
That, and as you were saying, with those score lines, you have Combat, who has such a hard point, now coming out still 0-5 here in the Search and Destroy. Rose gets the first 2 on the board. Make that the 3rd. And that's going to be another quick round win for Kennesaw State. It's just players who need and can make that impact for the St. Edward squad just being mitigated here in the Search and Destroy, and it is working out wonderfully for this KSU squad. Now, match point in map number 2. In the blink of an eye, the Search and Destroy has flown by. Does the full sale happen for St. Edwards or KSU? Can they close it out here on an offensive round? We will find out, but it has been silence and no response from the St. Edwards squad, as you said, given how that first map went. A little bit shocking here.
Yeah, it's very shocking to say the least, but I mean, I'm not taking any credit away from Kennesaw State because they have played a perfect Search and Destroy thus far, but St. Edwards is just trying to force way too many gunfights right now. It started with those overzealous pushes over towards the B bomb site. It's them just trying to force and brute force their way in towards that A site there, and then getting pieced by Rose on the flank side. Like it's plays like those that, like, yes, they can be, you know, map swinging in a sense, but when you just force gunfight after gunfight and put yourselves in bad positions, it's not going to net you any good 99% of the time. Fortunately enough, at least here, though, for Kennesaw State, you know, in the closeout round, you have the entire A-bomb to yourself. But they're doing the opposite of what St. Edwards did last time. They're trying to cover all of their corners. They're trying to make sure that every angle, every route that somebody could take is covered right now. And that's exactly what they need to do. St. Edwards Academy just aren't anywhere near for a retake yet. And it's going to be another time crunch where I don't know if they're going to be able to walk away with it.
At least for St. Edwards, as a 3v3 retake, you'd like to get someone slip through the back and really pinch them in. That's the fortunate thing for a defensive team when the bomb is on this A side, is you can really tuck them in the side of the map as long as you cover all your lanes. If you let player 5 and Outlaw slip through, that could spell danger, but they're really trying to sniff these players out. Fiasco is going to get eyes on Rose and get a beautiful kill there. Now a 3v2, you know these players are pinned in here. You just got to find these kills quickly because time is really quickly running out.
1 versus 3. Gizmo, shot in the back. Finally, St. Edwards will go ahead and get themselves their first round on the board. So what looked like a round where Kennesaw State had the entire A site to themselves. St. Edwards play a nice little retake for themselves as well. And streak gets invested. Obviously, it's a streak that you can't use, so just a little bit of white noise for us in the background.
A big response. I like that they opt to wait and play that 3v3 retake. I think had they sent someone over it, like you had said, it would just be someone not valuing their life, right? You want to see St. Edwards do that a little bit better here like they did there. A 3v3 retake is much easier on the A site versus the B site, but for Combat, I mean, we're in round number 7, still on Donut Watch. Someone who is a high impact player for the St. Edwards squad, not able to find a kill on the board. Will this round be the one he can get one and get something going here for the Hilltoppers?
I mean, unless it's a full sale, winning the last round just allowed Combat an opportunity to join the agency. So maybe St. Edwards were hoping for a late application here. I mean, the semester's almost over, but I mean, anything's possible at this point. Minute left on the clock. 4 versus 4 still. No lives taken off the board. Yasko starting to get aggressive over towards this B site. Plays the tank for cover. Outlaw's going to be there. There's 2 players on the dock side. Nate over the top is going to give them yet another first blood here inside of the search and destroy. And with Kennesaw State having the man advantage and the time now working in their favor, it's all going to come down to winning one-on-one gunfights. Thankfully, if you are a fan of the Hilltoppers, Kruk is going to be able to find one on the crossover towards the docks.
But player 7 and Rose is all the way to the back, and I don't think they're aware of it. Relk has turned around and is maybe going to try to get eyes on this, has suspicions someone could have slipped through, but the timing is beautiful
Sneaky.
for KSU once again, and this is just going to play spoiler on this whole round.
Kruk is below 1 on fire. Oh, he just jumps out right over him. So you get the kill there. Owl over on the site, doesn't realize the bomb is going to go down, though. Around the corner, you're going to slide challenge. 1 versus 2, 12 seconds left. Has to get the bomb down. And now if you're KSU, you know exactly where that bomb is. Pistol going to be there. Not going to hop around the corner. Knows that this bomb has to go down. Outlaw going to be the first one to challenge. Rose all the way in the back will be there for a trade. And a clinical search and destroy here on Berlin will allow Kennesaw State with a 6-1 advantage to tie the series back up once again. We will be at an even 1-1 standstill going into map number 3. We're at least now guaranteed 4 maps. It has been night and day between Respawn and S&D between these 2 teams, but at least we're prolonging this series for another stance.
Combat was able to get in the application there at the last minute, 007 for us here in map 2 search and destroy, and like you had said, night and day for the respawns and the S&D. If you're saying Edwards, fortunately, you're going back to 2 respawns. If you're KSU, we talked about at the top of the show how they're the favored team coming into this. In the respawns, I haven't seen it. So I really am not sure how this control is going to go. We're going to stay on Berlin and then go to a Bocage for hard points. So really kind of switching gears the next 2 maps. Of course, we're guaranteed 4, like you said. Unless I see what we saw in map 2 out of KSU replicated in a respawn, I mean, I still think St. Edwards can take it. It's just I need to see flashes of, more success in a respawn from Kennesaw State to really kind of get a feel for how they're going to be playing this series. But a wonderful search and destroy from the entire team for Kennesaw State.
Oh, that is abysmal. I'm sorry, Combat, but it just has to be said. 36 damage in 7 rounds of search and destroy. Maybe Berlin's just not your map, man, but yikes. That's a true agency right there. I mean, at least you got the bomb down, so technically you got some score on the board, so I guess a pat on the back there. But overall, again, it's gameplay like that that's not going to win you a map. As I said in map number 1, Kennesaw State, you had 2 outliers who had some pretty dog maps. You come back, though, in the search and destroy, everybody has a decent game across the board. Nobody really an outlier in a negative or positive way for Kennesaw State Academy. For the Hilltoppers, though, obviously there are some negative blemishes there that you can absolutely clean up. However, that's going to do it for the first 2 maps. Of course, we are guaranteed 4 maps. We'll stick on Berlin for the control. When we come back, one team will go up 2-1. The other one will fall and be on their last life here inside of the winner's bracket. My name is McCormill. With me, Cash. We'll be back for the Academy playoffs in just a moment. Just gotta pop that thing open, Right? I love content pieces, bro, because it's so nice just to get to see the actual personalities of some of the players and whatnot. Because we can sit here and have the most one-dimensional conversations about how a player is playing throughout a series, but when you get a look into how a player can act throughout a team, the vibes that they bring and how that can kind of win or lose a series for you, it's just so important. But it's things like that are just funny as hell to me. So that is how you do content pieces right there. But anyways, no matter how you look at this series, a 1-1 tie across the board. Again, night and day between maps number 1 and 2. It was a 250 to 137 point win on the hard point for the Tuscan for the Hilltoppers. Kennesaw State, though, untouched, really seemed unfazed almost in the search and destroy with a 6-1 win. We go back to Berlin in another respawn here. It'll probably be the most even map between both of these 2 teams. I expect the Hilltoppers to take another respawn here, but after that search and destroy, maybe there's a newfound life here for Kennesaw State, specifically in the way of them not dropping more than 3 maps throughout the regular season. I guess now 4 here throughout the entirety of the Academy season.
I really think Center has potential to take it. I was just trying to mull over while you were going over that of just. Of course, we've seen 2 maps already, but I feel like I don't have a great gauge on, I feel like the series we still haven't been given a lot. I mean, you got a really dominant hard point out of St. Edwards. They come out and they aren't able to replicate that in the search and destroy. Kennesaw State looks like a completely different team from the respawn and have a really dominant, play really well in the S&D. Now you go to control mode with a mix of both. I mean, this might be your truest telling of, okay, what team's really good to go now? Both have shown flashes of greatness, and, well, it's St. Edward's kicking things off on defense, Kennesaw State on offense, and so far, pretty 50-50 battle going down here on the A site.
Lives lost to the Hilltoppers, but you don't want to give up that B zone early on. Combat with a nice double there. Finally gets himself more kills there. And then inside of the search and destroy. That wasn't a difficult task. Trust me, we watched. But as Relk now has started to push up into the offensive side of spawn, Kennesaw State have opted to start pushing their way in towards that A site. The biggest problem that they're going to face now, though, is Crook being sneaky, playing in the corner, doesn't realize there's one over towards the left, might get traded out here in just a moment, but will actually go ahead and maintain the live, and now it's just Kennesaw State kind of cooped up in the back. This is the one thing that you don't want to face if you're the offensive side.
This is just like how the Tuscan hardpoint went. Look at how much map control St. Edward's has. They just aren't giving up. You have to battle through so much if you're Kennesaw State just to even get to your closest zone. They have them spawning exactly where they want, either in the top right corner, that far right side, and they aren't giving up kills to warrant them time in the zone. A couple kills go the way of Kennesaw State, but flying back on the site is the Hilltoppers, and just having 16 seconds left, I mean, you don't have any room for error. If you get wiped again, this is all but over, and once again, that's just props to the Hilltoppers' map presence.
Well, once again, it's that night and day that we talk about. Respawn compared to the search and destroy. Feel like, though, if Kennesaw State wants to win this series, it's got to be at least a formidable control or a hardpoint win. They're going to have to be able to take off of the Hilltoppers after that map number 1. Series, of course, still not close to over. Fiasco gets a beautiful double with the Automaton up close and personal, but Outlaw will go ahead, flash himself with another double him on his own. Gizmo there as well. So at least if you are Kennesaw State, you'll get those first 2 ticks and a full completion of that A zone. Only a 4-life disparity now, but with only a minute left to get over towards that B site, that's going to be the real pain point.
Only a couple plays left to be made over on this side of the map, but fortunately Rose has slipped to the back and is now playing in and around P3. No one for St. Edward's aware that maybe he has slipped through, but that is an opening for the team, just waiting for a play to happen, maybe to cut down a couple more players. Players now for St. Edward spawning in behind. They still don't know that Rose is here. He needs to make a play so that this is not null and void, and as Crook runs into his line of sight, that's going to be the opening. That's going to be the clearance to get over onto this B site. A 1v1 going down over here. Rose wins it once again. Progression starting to go the way of this Kennesaw State squad, but looked like it was all for nothing, and quite the spawn trap from St. Edward's. They've come out and responded beautifully.
They responded, but unfortunately, Rose just sitting in the corner. You're trying to get that 1 tick of progress. Fiasco slides on in, wins the one-on-one gunfight. 30 seconds left. You're going to deplete that zone all the way back down to 0 ticks. It is now for a KSU. No respawns remaining. 4 lives left. At least you were able to go ahead, mitigate what you could at least have in your possession, and you get those 3 ticks of progress over towards that A zone. For first one pushed up is going to be Rose yet again. It'd have to be a miracle to pull off a 3 versus 10 here, and you have 2 players who are in the site now, but the first one will fall. The second one almost snapped onto. Combat will shut that down. Last one alive, an Outlaw, going to be at the site with 10 seconds left.
Finds one on the challenge, gets shot in the back for the other, and the collapse on the side is in. St. Edward's Academy a little closer than what it looked like it could have been in the beginning, but they take that defensive round fairly decisively, just allowing 3 ticks of progression in. Now on offense, can they find success? We saw Kennesaw State look to take that A zone first. We see a lot of teams try to get B and get the hard work done, seeing how far away it is from your spawn, but Kennesaw State, I need to see them replicate some form of aggression, some kind of spawn trap the way St. Edward's has, not only in the hard point, but early on in this control. I need to just see some kind of aggression from them. We've talked about how they've played with such passiveness. They need to turn it up and try to combat St. Edward's here, because right out the gate, they already have a first pick, and it's all 4 players flying on the C site.
Oh, Fiasco wins it, but Gizmo on a flank was able to find the first. You look over towards the doorway, you're going to be able to spot that player out. You at least have the information, but that first tick of progress would be huge. They fly out at him over the staircase, and unfortunately, you're going to lose everybody that's up at that B zone. However, with that first tick of progress, that's going to be nice. Give them a bit of a cushion here to work with. If they are able to control the entirety of the A zone, at least that would bode well if we do go to a round number 5. Outlaw, yet another double here inside of the bottom of P2. He's been great here in the mailroom thus far. However, he's still got to stay alive here. Yet another pops in directly into his line of sight. 2 players in tandem now playing here for the side of KSU. It's going to take a full battalion to shut down Outlaw, and finally they'll take him out. Progress starting over towards that A site. Gizmo and Rose still, though, in the bottom of P2.
And where Beloved is playing, the only route for these Hilltoppers players to take is up through B Street and wrap through the back. That's exactly what player 6 and Relk has done. If he can shoot a couple players in the back at mid-map, or just get over to this B site, this pinch coming in, and player 6 and 5 could start to have a two-front war coming in, and KSU having to focus. Fiasco winning it on the A site, that progression's going up, and now you've got players on B, so Kennesaw State are going to opt to focus on this B site. A progress coming in, and that should be the point.
I like the double hits, though. Relk not going to be able to win all the gunfights there, but at least takes out one in the process. Negates anything that Kennesaw State could throw over at the A zone. You just have to make sure you don't lose that B site early on inside of a round. Minute and 48, tons of time to work with, getting back over towards the A site, the B site, but the problem is, again, that 3-life disparity, and of course a spawn trap that could start to get set up. You can already see Rose, who's just so far pressed up into that right portion of the spawn, playing over by that train head glitch. What that does, Cash, is so influential in terms of the spawns, because that forces everybody to spawn over in that train station and take a route through the docks.
And that is the only opening you can get for St. Edwards. They are able to find those kills, though player 3 and Rose, like you said, locking down that far side of the map, keeping them in the top corner. The Hilltoppers find the opening, pushing through P3. Now a pinch developing on the site. Player 7 combat shoots the player in the back. Now the player in fire trying to find those. And the kill is still going the way of St. Edwards for the time being. The hill is being contested, but it's an all-out collapse coming in from the Hilltoppers. Still 60 seconds to work with, and a couple more respawns left on the board. So you want to see them find success here, but player 7 in combat really just waiting around for an opening to try to collapse.
Played a different angle, though. He's just going to wait on the staircase for different players to make their way on up. Outlaw, though, will sniff it out. Another double kill here inside of the Berlin control. 50 seconds left here in round number 2. Offensive side for St. Edwards at least has found themselves 4 ticks of progress. One more than Kennesaw State found on their first offensive try. Out towards the back, Outlaw, once again just trying to snap onto Relk. He's been a great player all season long. He showed why here in this series. He's been very consistent throughout the first 2 maps. Here inside of map number 3, that has not changed whatsoever. Fiasco on the point, though, trying to look for Beloved all the way on the staircase. You're going to be able to find some shots there. Stay down. Contest, though, comes in. Different players now trying to corral back around the point. Kruk going to be able to find one. Going to have to win another double gunfight there for the players pushing back on in. Won't be able to do it. 2 versus 6, still possible. Relk now pushing his way up the map. They're inside of P5 at the moment. Very difficult to get all the way back over towards that B zone, though, with how many angles that there are needing to be watched and pressed out here by an offensive push from St. Edwards. But his Outlaw is going to be sitting in the office. That feels like it's going to be it there, as they know the location now of both players.
It's just a matter of waiting the clock out, and if you can find these kills, even better, but just not enough time left to get on this site. Gizmo finds one. Combat is able to trade it, but as he hops on the zone, KSU players are going to sniff him out and cut him down. They respond back with not nearly as dominant of a round, but still a round win on the board here in the control. Going to be going back to offense and definitely needing to get a couple more ticks of progression. Definitely one at B at the very least as we look ahead towards a round number 5 if we need to go the distance. But Kennesaw State, a more balanced respawn here that we are seeing early on. Handshake rounds, and back on offense we go.
Kennesaw State going to need to get themselves probably at least an equalizing 3 or 4 ticks here. At least one over towards the B site. All comes down to winning those opening engagements over towards this B zone. Relk long shots going to be there. Help with Fiasco over towards the right side of the train station. Nobody going to be able to push over towards that right side door. Combat just playing and peeking around the different broken windows here inside of the train station. And now as KSU Academy are going to be forced all the way back. They can set up to try and hit this from a different angle. Rose in the middle of the map will re-challenge Fiasco. Has to be careful on the staircase here, though. They are going to know that Rose is here, though, with a stun. Good information. Outlaw there, too, trying to get back onto the site. But it's all the gunfights going the way of St. Edwards inside of the hill. They're going to be able to clear out that B zone and clear out their spawn in the process. And now it's just the conversation of, do you want to go for A here, try to get some ticks, or do you just want to try and brute force your way back over towards B again?
I really think, just watching Relk off screen, he played all the way up at this B site, came all the way up to P4 to find a pick, and was not killed on his way back over to docks. Finally falls now, but that just set up the map pressure for St. Edwards to make the transition over to the A site. They funneled him to B, got a good set of kills in, and once again we see Kennesaw State with minimal time on the clock, and you know they have to focus this A site. The way St. Edwards plays their defenses, it just makes it so predictable and easy for them in the late round, because with 20 seconds left, you know that they have to go to this A site. They just funnel them through the lane that they want until the timer gets to where it needs, and now they know they only need to focus this one site. Player 3 might try to slip through in Rose, but really just trying to look for some information on some players. Combat from the top rope. Gonna throw down and take down 2. Relk finding a pistol kill as well, so the time once again dwindling. St. Edwards look to be in firm control on defense.
And, you know, I said that they needed probably 4 ticks to at least counteract what St. Edwards got on their offensive try. This is not how you go ahead and do that. Combat, once again, just slides out, challenges back. Bottom of the A site, though, 18-14. This is almost pitch perfect of what we saw inside of the first offensive round for Kennesaw State. The first defensive round that we saw from the Hilltoppers. This time, though, they're going to try and go ahead, hold on to the entirety of this bottom A site. Down from the top, though, Outlaw's going to be able to snap to the second. Kruk there, good trades in. However, it's combat there. Gizmo, 1 versus 1 back onto the point. You have to win this to keep some time alive. You want to at least get that 3rd tick of progress. It's so crucial on a map like Berlin for control because that B site is so tantalizing, and if you can't get it on that first break, it just seems almost impossible.
Not only the time, but the lives. You have 2 hits at the site. If you are Kennesaw State, it has to be near perfect, as 2 players are coming up off respawn, and 2 players for St. Edwards are in your spawn. So this battle going down on P4 between these 2 players going to be critical if they want to find a lane out of here. Player 4 and Gizmo still stuck in P2, trying to work his way out. The lane does open at train side, but combat causing problems in your spawn once again. 7-11 is the life count, 30 seconds on the clock, and you've just crossed the 50-yard line of the map for KSU. It's got to be a clean wipe, and it's got to be a full-out flood.
Kruk in the middle of the map, 11-5. Gizmo hops down. Automaton's going to win the gunfight there, 3 in a row. Out over towards the left, you help out your teammate there as well. 2 players in the zone right now for St. Edwards. Only 4 lives remaining now. No respawns left. 3-9. The life advantage now for St. Edwards. You have one more good push here at the hill. I say good push, but really it's just going to be a scattered and chaotic cluster over towards this point. There's 2 players now trying to make a flank, but this does open up the doors to the site if you are able to win the gunfights and get in. But with only a second left on the clock, you try to touch for the contest there. But St. Edwards once again able to flurry back in towards the point. A 2-1 advantage now here inside of the control. 1 round away from being able to take themselves a series lead yet again at 2-1. It's been good respawn control here for the side of the Hilltoppers, but on the defensive side here, the Owls are looking to push to around number 5.
For St. Edwards, unless they don't get this A site, if they can get this A site, they are guaranteed defense on round number 5 if we go that distance. They're going to try to close out here on offense. Once again, all 4 players sprinting arrows forward towards this B site. They opened it up with the first blood. Bullied outside last time to get good progression. Looks to be the same thing here. It is traded out by Kennesaw State, but we're 2-2. Still fighting over the site, and Kennesaw State, much needed round here. You've got to clutch up on defense and get it done.
Oh, pistol shots were almost there on the Rose. That could have been a big opening kill to allow the teammates to push back up the map and maybe get some sort of positioning in towards this B zone. However, unfortunately, for the side of the Hilltoppers, you lose those gunfights. Kennesaw State is able to reclaim over by B. However, you got to look to player number 5 and Kruk, who's making a bit of a flank route. He's able to get in, at least draw the attention of Kennesaw State back over towards B. It could be big, but you're just trying to get that tick yet again here on that B zone. 2.5 ticks of progress now working around the map. You're trying to go ahead and get that final tick of progress at A here, but still nobody's contested back over towards B yet for Kennesaw State, and you're able to get that first tick of progress over at that B zone. Now the contest will finally come in. You find the player in Kruk in office and are able to go ahead and cut them down, but all the wiser over at A. St. Edwards have set themselves up. They're going to be able to add an extra minute onto the clock with 2 minutes and 5 seconds to work here. This is a very doable offensive round for the Hilltoppers.
And just a job well done out of Kruk. You didn't need anything more than a tick of progress. So once again, you split the KSU resources. They have to go to B. They have to respect that that progress is going up. It's closer off spawn. You know it's just one body. And that frees up that A side. It just relieves so much pressure for KSU the entire time they have let a player slip through. And it was really late coming in from Kruk that opened up that B site as the players made the rotation over towards A. But just playing the timing so wonderfully are the Hilltoppers. And now they're guaranteed defense for round number 5. If it happens to go the distance, a pretty mean spawn trap coming in. Expect the Hilltoppers to give it a good go and bully this out and get back on this B site to go down early. But for St. Edwards, I mean, it has been a clinical control here. Offense is looking very decisive just as the defense.
Oh, hipfire shots there. Beautiful from the MP40. Second shot's going to be there on the Gizmo. Okay, that's 2 kills. You read Outlaw coming around the corner. You're not able to win the gunfight, though. So there for Outlaw. 6 in a row. You're looking for number 7 here. That's going to be streaks. That could be big on an offensive push towards the end of the round. 8 in a row. 32 in 23. I said he'd been consistent in the first 2 maps. Here in map number 3, he has been outright perfected. It was 16-9 in the lives now. You're trying to get in behind, just force the spawn trap a little harder on the St. Edward side of things. Nobody back in towards the point. Outlaw still alive. Kennesaw State poised, looking good to force things to around number 5.
A good stand for KSU. I still think that the lives as drastic as they are, the Hilltoppers with the...
Oh my god.
Clear advantage here. As this is going to look to go to a round number 5, no respawns remaining, 10 life disparity. The St. Edwards, the job is done. Just one more round. They need to replicate what they have been on their defense, and they have found so much success in that. No one going to chow for anything crazy. One last go coming forward. But this should be round number 5 that we're getting sent to, is 2 go down for the side of the Hilltoppers.
Finally, Relk is able to cut down Outlaw, so the crazy streak does come to an end for the side of Kennesaw State, but at the same time, the Hilltoppers are back onto the point. It's 2 players who are alive here, though. Now it's a 1 versus 10. Kruk would have to pull off the unthinkable here. He's now on 4 in a row. Beloved going to contest in towards the point, tries to get the shots there, but it's a double challenge that comes in from Kennesaw State that forces the round number 5. 2-2, here we go inside of the control. You know, Cash, we kind of forecasted here in map number 3 that it would probably be a lot closer than maps number 1 and 2. We've got exactly what we've wanted here inside of this series. It was one of those things where we thought maybe it could go to the distance all the way to the end. Kennesaw State, this is your best chance to try to force a map number 5, but the way you played map number 1, the hard points do not look like they're going to go in your favor. It's not a must-win here in a general sense, but at least in the overall feeling, I think it might just be a must-win round here, even though it's offense. You have a glide bomb to work with. Streak's maybe not the best on Berlin, but it'll do you good if you're able to at least find one.
And they're going to get aggressive over at this B site. Give it the first look at that. Player 6 and Relk, once again, just in that upward position. You know they're going to be spawning P4. Maybe at this point even going to be spawning that top right corner as the flank is coming in. But kills are going the way of Kennesaw State early. This progress already coming in. 1 tick in, and this is very quickly climbing. The play has to come in quickly from Relk if he wants to pinch on the site.
Trying to get that second tick of progress. Not going to be able to get the gunfights there. Everything going to the side of Kennesaw State. All of a sudden, this round has changed completely on its head. Gizmo push forward. They're going to have one more contest all the way in through the backline. Combat needs to have a huge gunfight here. Won't be able to win it. B zone secured. 2 minutes and 10 seconds to capture the A zone. And look how far St. Edwards have pushed themselves up the map. 6 life disparity into the side of Kennesaw State. Fiasco trying to push around the back. Going to win the first gunfight. But you can thank your lucky dollar to Outlaw there for getting you onto the B zone. He has been influential on this map in every way, shape, and form, and now that glide bomb becomes oh so more useful over towards the dockside as you try to get back over towards A. Contest on the point, minute and 45 left. This is looking like a Kennesaw State round that should go their way.
It is, but if you go 4 down here, the spawn trap, you know, is going to come in from the Hilltoppers. You're going to have to find a way to bat out of it. It would just take 1 wipe, given that you have the hard point out of the way, and A side is all you have left. The glide is going to get invested and come in. That's going to kill the player, or at least attempt to in the B site, but that was patched long ago. Player 6 and Relk still alive. Information at least relayed. But you lose the gunfight, the punch to the face, and no progress has been made. You invest the streak, and it amounts to nothing.
Oh, no. No progress has been made. Every gunfight going the way of St. Edwards now. It was a 6 life advantage at 28-22. Now it's a 1 life advantage for the defensive side of things. Sure, you're in the A zone now, but Kruk is there as well. Relk gonna win a gunfight. Everybody's spawning close for Kennesaw State. You're just trying to not get spawn trapped all the way in the back lines. Oh, this was looking so good for Kennesaw State. They got that B zone first. There's still a minute to work with here. It's not all over, but it just feels like there's that looming curiosity from St. Edwards to get back into the point.
2 more kills. Make that 3. Going the way of St. Edwards. That allows the reinforcements to get up and end the site. Now just sniffing out Beloved, who's not going to find the kill. That's going to be the wipe. Once again, no ticks of progress secured at A. They are just battling for any ounce of map progression that they can get. Kruk finding a 2-piece in the staircase. Relk calling in the streak now to cut these players down. It is 3 down in the feed for St. Edwards. What looked like disaster to kick things off is something that's looking a bit more manageable as time passes now. What was a 7 life disparity, now a 7 life lead for the Hilltoppers. I mean, talk about resilience.
Gotta be flawless. Relk out on the dockside. Outlaw, another double here. 38 kills on Berlin. Everybody stacked on the point. First tick of progress going to be there. Combat from the top of P2. Going to try to slide down the staircase. Second tick of progress is going to be there. Combat from the top is able to find 1. Jump on down. Around the corner, you find number 2. Everybody down now from the side of Kennesaw State. St. Edwards do a phenomenal job of racing back to the point and winning their gunfights. Outlaw, he's been huge here so far. Wins the first gunfight. 2 more are going to be pushing him. The pinch is in. Kennesaw State are down here in the control. St. Edwards, after losing the B point early on in that round, are able to stay defiant on the defensive side, win the majority of their gunfights, knock Kennesaw State out of the bottom of P2, and take the control in a flashy way that got all too close for comfort.
Rogue with 4,000 damage. I'm Outlaw with 4,400, Combat 4,500. I mean, these stats are insane, and that's what you get when it gets pushed to round number 5. But I mean, for the Hilltoppers, even though Kennesaw State got that B site so quickly, it just felt like with how dominant their defense was, man, it never felt like they were out of it because they never let themselves get in a position to be out of it. Whenever someone needed to go big and pop a 2-piece to let the spawn players come back in off of fire, they were able to do just that. The St. Edward squad, I mean, when they need to, they put up the big plays. They go up 2-1, and one that you had said was Kennesaw State's to lose. That, I mean, that was an offense that we hadn't seen from them within the control. They pull off the unthinkable, getting that B site early, and just couldn't capitalize on that A site. So for Kennesaw State, that's when you're kicking yourself over for sure. You go to a scrappy Bacage hard point where I think, Kennesaw State may have better chance at it, but that's just such an aggressive, high interaction and high in-your-face map. I mean, for St. Edwards, still, just one away from getting it done, but man, what a series we've had thus far. I mean, these respawns are crazy.
There's one takeaway from that map. Outlaw needed some help there in the later portions of the game. He single-handedly, I don't want to say single-handedly, but single-handedly got himself over onto that B site with the rest of the team. Had a huge 2-piece to get onto the site. was at 3 in a row when he got onto it. And Kennesaw State, they just couldn't find their way back over towards A. Look, it's very difficult to break either of the site once you give one up, especially if you're a good, capable defensive team of being able to hold, and that's exactly what St. Edwards are. They're a very good respawn team. They showed that there. They have grit, they have tenacity, but everybody had a relatively good game. I mean, both sides of the coin, no matter which way you look at it, Slang was pretty much even across the board, sure. But again, it's the mitigation of lives lost to the lives gained for St. Edwards, which is the big pain point there for Kennesaw State. It's the non-traded kills. It's the score streaks that came in. It's those team plays either towards that A or the B site on offense and defense that really made the difference there for St. Edwards in map number 3. So now we go to a Bacage hardpoint where, yes, I do agree that Kennesaw State might be in a bit more of an advantage here in some ways, simply due to the fact that they can play a bit more chaotic and a bit more haphazardly, specifically with the amount of time that they lost to St. Edwards on a map of Tuscan, where they were able to set up, get out, and rotate. But I mean, it's really anybody's series at this point, but I still think that was the best chance for Kennesaw State to be able to take this series, at least force a map number 5 here, now that you've gone ahead and given St. Edwards 2 respawns already, and now that we have precedence for map number 1 going into another hard point. I think this just screams the Hilltoppers when I think they're going to be able to punch their ticket in the grand final.
I happen to agree with you, just because as much as we said, maybe this could lean the way, this Bacage could lean the way of Kennesaw State, given how messy and chaotic it can be. I mean, whether it's St. Edwards Main or it's St. Edwards Academy, these teams thrive in a chaotic environment. They love the high engagement in your face gunplay. That's exactly what Bacage caters to. And KSU haven't really had an answer for that aggression. They had a good answer in the search and destroy, but St. Edwards didn't. I mean, they played aggressive to an extent, but it wasn't anything like the respawns. It was just not valuing their lives. Like you said, for KSU, I mean, that really felt like their best chance to take a respawn off the board. That would have definitely been their easier chance to take a respawn. It's obviously not impossible. They still have this one ahead of them, but you really gotta, I mean, it's gotta be perfect here. You gotta win the next 2 in order to take it, force it to a map number 5. Bacage would be the map that I would want, though, for map number 4. Absolutely. If I wasn't favoring very well in the respawns thus far, I would take a map number 4 Bacage just to give me some life to play scrappy and really just try to get something happening.
I'll tell you one thing. If KSU are even going to have a chance at this game, you know what you're going to get out of Outlaw at this point. I don't think that's really a question. Sure, we've only seen 3 maps inside of this series, but if you're performing well and consistent across all 3 maps, I don't have any reason to believe that map number 4 is going to be fall off, especially in an elimination portion of this best-of-5 series. I will say this, though. There needs to be a significant amount of stepping up from the rest of the team. Yeah. It was Gizmo and Outlaw in map number 1 that really made the difference. It was Beloved and Rose that needed to kind of have that extra step forward, and they just unfortunately didn't receive that. But now that you look to this map number 4 in Bacage, to where you can allow those players to get more engagements, I think that's really what it comes down to, because I'm pretty sure in map 1 it was like 9 and like 13 from Rose. He had like 21 engagements across the board. If that needs to change when you're playing hardpoint, no matter what, specifically since you didn't get your team all that much hill time.
Yeah, and it's impossible. Even if you sit in your spawn, you're going to get more than 21 engagements on Bacage. So it's just something where you need to see those performances step up, like you said, and those players. It's got to be a complete team effort against a team like this. You want to punch your ticket to the grand finals. It's got to be all 4 players clicking and firing on all cylinders. And yeah, for St. Edwards, it's just a matter of closing it out at this point.
Well, I am getting word that it is not going to be a Bocage hardpoint here for map number 4. I'm getting word that it is going to be a Berlin hardpoint for map number 4. So that changes everything that we just talked about, because for
100%.
St. Edwards, this allows you to play those long-range AR gunfights. This allows you to tailor it to your game almost perfectly with how you were able to get out and rotate on a map like Tuscan beforehand. You broke KSU almost every single time that they gave up that hill time, and you were able to go ahead and put yourself in a position to net you tons of time inside of that game. That's why it was so far apart, is because those rotations favored you so heavily. So, well, you know, as we kind of talked about, yeah, Bocage would have been a great map for Kennesaw State, and I don't want to count them out here in map number 4, but on Berlin, a map that St. Edwards is going to be able to tailor, it plays obviously so much different than a Control does in a hard point here on Berlin. This just, at least for me, it just kind of changed my entire mindset of how I view this series.
It did, and again, I don't want to count Kennesaw State out. It just, from the respawns and the hardpoint to the control, St. Edwards plays around map positioning. KSU, especially in that hardpoint, played around the hardpoints. And when you play for map positioning, well, even if you don't lose a rotation, you have so much of the map covered, you just know the lanes you need to be looking down in order to find the kills and get the openings that you need. St. Edwards, they do just that. The pinstripe kill feed goes their way. They are getting P1 time on the unfavored side. KSU are opting to wrap around and try to get P2 control early, but we saw whenever they chalked up bits of time and just started giving it up, sometimes they couldn't come back from the lead, just got insurmountable. So they need to be able to show that they can break back into these sites. Otherwise, for St. Edwards, I mean, it could be another gruesome scoreline.
Names and colors are correct at the top. The logos will flip around in just a moment here. 10 seconds left here on point number 1. We'll have the rotation back over towards point 2 here. Combat going to be through the middle of P5. First shot's going to be there, but it is the early rotation from Kennesaw State. Very similar to what we saw inside of map number 1. That rotation went to the side of the first hill went to the side of St. Edwards. Kennesaw State got that rotation. Here, however, at least they won the majority of their gunfights. You know, gosh, it's crazy. This is all they had to do inside of the control to go ahead and take it. And they've done a wonderful job of holding down the bottom of P2 this time. It's crazy how that works.
It's unbelievable. You know, they gave up the P1 first and opted to go P2, and hey, they're holding it down. Unfortunately, it's too late for the control for anything to change there, but a good bit of time coming in off of P2, just a 10-point lead now. St. Edwards have not been able to get in, going to find a kill and slide down and find a second. That'll be clearance on the side as 2 players are already opting to rotate to P3, giving up 20 seconds of time. This is exactly what they did in the Tuscan, and we started to see that scoreline go from 20, 40, 60, 80, so on and so forth. Now player 3 and Relk winning one in the back, so you lose the spawns for P3, you lose the scrap time. Kennesaw State, they're throwing stuff at the wall and it's just not sticking.
It was a huge gunfight to win there in the back, but unfortunately Ruck will fall after the fact. Still bodies here for St. Edwards pushing up to the front of fire. Outlaw gets cut down immediately as they start to push on in. AR is now looking over the hill. Combat trying to stay alive inside of the left-hand corner. Relk over by P1 in the pillars, trying to go ahead, cut off a cross angle that you have from the backside. Spawns for Kennesaw State making their way in back towards the hill. But however, it is going to be the side of the Owls who get rewarded for rotating early, winning the majority of their gunfights, sending the players there. At least that is for the first about maybe 15 seconds of time, because, well, the Hilltoppers immediately break that back in, and now we're going to force their will back over towards the pillars, and of course hold down the spawns.
And the Hilltoppers have done all of this without spawn. Sure, they have them now, but the first 30 seconds of that hill was fought from the front. For St. Edwards, now 80 to 34. Again, it's just shadows. We keep beckoning back to map number 1, but it's looking eerily similar. KSU winning nearly all of the rotations. They are not able to hold off the first wave of attack. Even if they aren't able to break back in. St. Edwards setups are too strong in and around the map. They know the spots they need to get in for their players to find success. Combat at 8-6, Fiasco at 8-6. 2 performances that, you know, we come to expect in map number 4 of this series. The furthest player sniffed up an Outlaw, gets cut down, and now the collapse coming in. And then around this P4, KSU desperately need to hold on to this one.
And it's insane, too, because for Kennesaw State, you have won a lot of gunfights around the map. The slaying is not far off whatsoever. You're actually leading in the slaying department right now, but you're down by almost 50 points. And it's a testament to how St. Edwards is able to play around the map, but more importantly, influence spawns and Hilltime alike. It's not every day that you see a team that can, you know, get outslayed but still be able to win a game consistently. But for the Owls, it's just hit after hit that just comes up empty. They're just finding kills across the map, sure, but it's not equating to anything. The initial time, they've been broken out of time and time again, and even when they break back into the hill and win a couple of the gunfights, they don't have the spawn, specifically over by P3, where then you just lose 35 seconds of time, give up a money hill, and then hope and pray over by the next hill that you're able to go ahead and muster up some time on a P4.
And the reason St. Edwards finds so much success off of this, like you had said, by influencing spawns, is you know where players are coming from. You're channeling through these lanes of the map to where, okay, there's only one place these players could be coming from. We're just going to hold our pre-aims and soak up this time. Whereas if you're Kennesaw State, you're coming off spawn and getting cut down, and you can't progress much further than the zone. So you're not sure where they're coming from. You have to clear out so much and regain so much map control before you can actually get any kind of footing on the map. Now closing it down to about 20 points. This is better than the response that we have seen in map number 1. But for KSU, I mean, you've got to get map progression. Getting hill time and getting kills around the site is not enough. It's proven to not be enough. We need to start to see them zone out and get a little more footing here. St. Edwards, again, the way they influence the things that aren't, the hill, things that aren't hill time and kills. It's just something that devastates score lines. And props to Kennesaw State for answering back in a big way that they did. But now St. Edwards has a setup. Rose slipped through, but not going to be a thorn in the side of the St. Edwards squad for P1.
And you got to be careful there if you are Fiasco, because if you push too far up, you're going to influence the spawns and spawn your team out, and that's exactly what happens. You make a great play to get all the way through the back, but now it's going to be the pillar side of spawn here for St. Edwards. You are winning the gunfights here, though, through the front. Combat just going to be playing inside of the corner. Nobody opting to slide into the hill just yet. You got your ARs covering over the top. It was a lot of time that St. Edwards was able to garner themselves on P1 the last time through. They're looking to do the exact same thing here again. Outlaw on the staircase won't be able to slide in and find anything just yet. As Fiasco still holding on to the long angle all the way back inside of the hill. It's going to be yet another pre-aim that the side of KSU are going to run directly on into. As Fiasco is still going to be holding onto the hill here. It's been basically a full 60 that St. Edwards has gone ahead and got themselves accrued. You just got to be better than that if you are Kennesaw State, especially with those spawns there.
You most definitely do. St. Edwards taking advantage of anything on the map. The adaptability that this squad has shown in this series. Again, albeit the Search and Destroy, we didn't really see much of anything from them there. But in the respawns, this team can really just mold to whatever the map and the opponent are giving them. They win the rotation and are looking to essentially chain P1 and P2, as crazy as it sounds. After coming off a near full 60 from P1, they are poised and in control of the site here, extending their lead once again back out to over 70 points. And knowing where these KSU players are coming from, it's looking like a defensive control round for them. They look very comfortable.
Smoke around the corner. Outlaw going to be able to pop yet another double. Something that we saw time and time again here throughout the entirety of the series. Gizmo the bottom of P2. It's so funny to me how right now, Kennesaw State, their money hill has been the bottom of P2, yet it was their Achilles heel throughout the entirety of the control in the final round. It's insane.
It is. And I don't have an answer for you. I wish I did. This Kennesaw State has been an absolute anomaly to me this series. They come out in map 2 and take care of business. Here in the respawns, it's just a team that looks a little dazed and confused. They have P3 spawns once again, but can they hold off St. Edwards? If they do, and they can lock down a substantial amount of time, they are right back in this game. But if St. Edwards get back in, I mean, it might be match point. This one could be over. You let them get in and cross that 200-point mark. I mean, again, I keep saying map 1, but I don't know what else to relate it to. It's looking very cookie cutter. At least we're at the 130-point mark at this point. Like I said, if they get a substantial amount of time, they're right back in it, but they've got to hold off.
I mean, they started to figure it out at the very end of or rather at the end of map 1. So, survey says if you can do it there, you can do it again here on Berlin. And that's exactly what they've done here on the rotation from 2 to 3. This has been a great chunk of time that Kennesaw State Academy have garnered themselves. Now, as you start to look over towards the rotation of P4, I'm not sure if play number 6 and Rose got spotted out through the back or not yet. But if you won the one-on-one gunfight, okay, off-screen, you're going to lose it there. Sorry, I was just kind of mini-map watching there. But, you lose that off-screen engagement. Now the spawns are going to stick for St. Edwards Academy, and you don't have really anybody to disrupt them all the way in the back. But with only a 28-point lead now for the side of St. Edwards Academy, sure, they're going to go ahead and extend that just a bit as Kennesaw State try to get back across the map. But that was a beautiful hold there and something that they desperately needed if they want to stay alive here in map number 4.
We saved a beautiful hold and something that got them right back in it. Unfortunately, it is not enough. Now you have to get a quick break into P4. The job is never done for Kennesaw State, especially when you're fighting off the back foot in a hard point. But again, look at where these players are looking. They know exactly the lane with which these Kennesaw State players are coming through. All of their airs are looking this way. They know they have to funnel through train. They know they need a quick break. It's just one step ahead from the Hilltoppers, and it's beautiful to watch because there's just no lost movement on them around the map. That's another 4 down and a near 60-second hold going to be coming in for St. Edward's University. Now you see them break out and go for their positions for not only P1 spawns potentially, but at least wrap around this P5 side and once again confuse the side of Kennesaw State. I mean, it is great respawn play from the Hilltoppers.
Those pesky ARs from the Hilltoppers. 244 to 160. 4 seconds needed here for the side of St. Edward's to send Kennesaw State Academy to the lower bracket. Fiasco, top of the staircase, able to find one. Double trade back and forth. Gizmo, Rose refused to quit here thus far. 48 seconds left on this point. Tons of time for St. Edward's to collapse back on that hill and get themselves some time. Streak going to be used over the top. Fiasco not going to be able to find anything, but information is garnered. Combat in towards the point. One-on-one gunfight win. Beloved there, trying to trade it out. Has to go ahead and be massive for the rest of the team, but as Relk finds the kill there and hops in the hill, a 250 to 171 hardpoint win in map number 4 will advance St. Edward's Academy to the grand final, secured themselves a top 2 placing here in Academy, and they are now guaranteed at least $1,250 as a prize cash for themselves, as they are now going to be a team to beat going into the grand finals. Any team that wants to face off against them, Cash, will have to beat them in 2 best-of-5 series.
A great series from St. Edward's, and what a strong showing to go into the grand finals with. Yeah, you have to best them in 2 best-of-5s, and I don't even know that St. Edward's is going to let it get this far. I mean, they're search and destroy. Yeah. You know they're going to talk about that during this downtime and try to figure out what went wrong there. And again, you don't want to take away from Kennesaw State. It was just a great search and destroy as well. But St. Edward's did make mistakes, and that, you know, they're going to try to correct that going into the grand finals. But their respawns, I mean, I don't have much to say, you know, as far as improvements go there. The way they move around the map, the information that they have at all times on the opponent, it's beautiful to see. They take that series 3-1. You said it was a $1,200 match, and they played like it was. I mean, that was all... That was just all St. Edward's from start to finish in the respawns.
Looking there at the end, it was an outslaying performance by St. Edward's, but not really all by that much. 250 to 171, obviously the final score, but I mean, for Relk and Fiasco, you have great games for both of those 2 players. Fiasco earning that streak in the glide bomb towards the end there. They were able to clear out different things and different avenues around the map, but you can't really count out what Combat did in terms of hill time. 18 and 18, dead even on the map. 12 untraded kills, though, with 2 minutes and 14 seconds inside of the hill. That hill time was massive, just being able to sit there and soak up things, while Relk and Fiasco with the ARs were able to fly around the map and win those one-on-one gunfights, secure the spawns, and allow Combat and Kruk to do their thing inside of the hardpoint and tango with each other to get kill after kill after kill after kill. So, very fun series overall. Again, the hardpoints, really not all that close. It was the search and destroy, though, that was the boon of happiness for Kennesaw State Academy. Unfortunately, that didn't last for long, though, as it went to a map number 3 for the control on Berlin, where we saw the side of St. Edward's get out to some great defensive starts. They had some nice offensive attempts that allowed them to get out in terms of tick progression, which gave them the defensive side in round number 5. And, of course, we saw famously that the side of Kennesaw State Academy were not able to break into the bottom of P2 inside of the A point on that map, and then eventually lost it inside of that last attempt when they got the B zone first. A lot of good to take away from this series for St. Edward's, obviously. For Kennesaw State, it's a learning experience, I'm sure, and it's things you can iron out very easily in the hard point, which I'll be interested to see if they do get back to play against St. Edward's yet again in that grand final, if they're going to be able to find the kinks that they, you know, initially didn't iron out and are able to go ahead and at least get those crisped up a bit.
Yeah, you know they want a rematch in the grand finals against the squad, but they still have one more match to face in the winner of Brock Academy, you know, and Redbird COD, and that's going to a map number 5 currently. So that is a really interesting thing to know, and I'm really excited to see how that one shakes out. And again, for St. Edward's, can't sing their praises enough. Of course, the search and destroy, kind of that glaring pinnacle that, hey, we need to see tighten up in between now and the grand finals. You know that conversation could be had. Lots of learning for Kennesaw State. They've got to bounce back quickly and go into another series after the conclusion of the Redbird COD and Brock University Academy 1. But, I mean, this is just the first match. We've got a great night of COD ahead of us. I mean, we still have one more ahead of us. We've got the winner of Brock and Redbird COD playing against Kennesaw, and man, I'm not ready. I'm ready to get back into it.
I am too. And the thing is, right, we sit here and we look at this series as kind of that staple of, okay, these two teams are probably going to be the two teams that face back off in the grand finals. But again, it all just depends on, one, if Brock can keep their losers bracket streak alive, and two, if Kennesaw State is going to be able to bounce back from a loss. Because again, they've only lost a few maps throughout the entirety of the season. This was their first series loss throughout the entirety of the CCL season, and it comes at the hands of a very good St. Edward's Academy roster, which, again, I think a lot of people had kind of high up on their tier list if you've been paying attention to the Academy scene this season. But, I mean, for Kennesaw State overall, it's an unfortunate exit out of the winner's bracket, sure, but going into the lower bracket, I think they're still the favorites to get out of it. So we'll go ahead and then cut things off there for just a moment, but we have the losers finals coming up next. Kennesaw State awaits the winner of Brock and the opposition of Redbirds COD. So when we come back from a break, we'll have our losers finals set up for you, a new best of 5 series, and of course some great action to go ahead and watch here as the Academy playoffs continue. My name is McCormiel. With me, Cash. We'll be back after a short break.